Have you ever wondered what secrets lie hidden within the lineage of Adam and Eve? The truth is, the story of humanity's first family is far more complex and mysterious than we've been led to believe. Most people think they know the tale of Cain and Abel, but what if I told you that there are secrets buried in the biblical genealogy that could change everything you thought you knew? In this journey, we're going to peel back the layers of the primordial family, revealing shocking truths about Cain's wife, the legendary Mark of Cain, and the ancient marriages that shaped early humanity. We'll dive deep into the lives of Seth's descendants and explore the forbidden wisdom hidden in apocryphal texts like the Book of Jubilees. Why did early humans live for hundreds of years? What secrets did Enoch uncover in his walk with God? The answers might surprise you, and they could hold the key to understanding the very foundations of human civilization. Get ready to uncover the secrets that have been overlooked for centuries. You're about to explore the hidden lineage of Adam and Eve like never before, unraveling the mysteries of the city of Enoch and the spiritual legacy of our earliest ancestors. So, buckle up. This journey promises to be both eye-opening and life-changing. Let's expose the hidden truths together. The creation of Adam and Eve is one of the most fascinating narratives in human history, where everything began. Imagine a formless world, empty and still, until God decided to create the first human, Adam, from the dust of the earth. This act wasn't just about giving physical life. It marked the start of a creation narrative that established a spiritual connection between God and his masterpiece. Then, realizing Adam was alone, God created Eve, formed from one of Adam's ribs, symbolizing not only physical union but also the emotional and spiritual bond between man and woman. This moment gave birth to what we call the primordial family, the very first family bond in human history. When we think of Adam and Eve, it's almost impossible not to reflect on how this creation shaped humanity from its very beginnings. They were not just the first humans, they were also the ancestors of all generations to come, forming what we know as the biblical genealogy. Their children and descendants played critical roles in developing the biblical story and spreading the beliefs that we know today. To truly understand the roots of our existence, it's essential to view the story of Adam and Eve as the solid foundation that supports the spiritual and moral development of humanity. The story of Adam and Eve doesn't end with their creation. It expands to include the saga of their children, Cain and Abel, adding emotional complexity to the narrative. Their relationship, filled with conflict and difficult choices, begins to shape the destiny of all humanity. This is where the real test of faith and obedience starts, as humanity faces choices between good and evil, between following the divine path or straying from it. And so, this sets the stage for a deeper exploration of their children's lives, particularly the troubled journey of Cain and Abel, which unfolds next. As we transition from Adam and Eve to their children, the story of Cain and Abel unfolds as one of the earliest and most tragic examples of conflict in human history. Cain and Abel, born into the world created by their parents, inherited not just life, but also the complex nature of human emotions. Cain, the farmer, and Abel, the shepherd, each brought their offerings to God, hoping for his favor. Abel's sincere devotion shone through his gift, while Cain's offering fell short, lacking the depth of faith and obedience that God sought. This difference in acceptance became the spark that ignited a flame of jealousy and resentment within Cain. Cain's reaction to God's preference for Abel's offering wasn't just a moment of personal frustration. It was a pivotal point that revealed the complexities of early humanity. In his envy, Cain's thoughts darkened, leading to a fateful decision that would mark him forever. The conflict between Cain and Abel wasn't merely a sibling rivalry. It was the first recorded act of violence, symbolizing humanity's struggle with sin and the consequences of turning away from righteousness. It's in this moment that the concept of divine punishment becomes a harsh reality, showing that actions driven by anger and envy come with severe repercussions. The act of murder not only led to Abel's untimely death, but also initiated a turning point in Cain's life, setting him on a path of exile and isolation. God's response to Cain's crime was both just and merciful. He condemned Cain to wander, yet marked him with the mark of Cain as protection against those who might seek vengeance. This mark wasn't just a sign of punishment, it was a symbol of God's continued watchfulness, even over those who stray. This leads us directly into the mystery of this mark, its significance, and how it influenced Cain's fate and legacy. Moving from the tragedy of Abel's death, let's delve into the deeper meaning behind the offerings that set this story in motion. The gifts brought by Cain and Abel to God were more than mere tributes. They symbolized the intentions and attitudes of their hearts. Abel's offering, the finest of his flock, was an act of faith and devotion that truly honored God. Cain's offering, however, lacked that sincere spirit, highlighting a disconnect between his actions and his relationship with the divine. This difference wasn't just about the material value, it was about the faith and obedience that Abel demonstrated. This moment between Cain and Abel reveals the deeper layers of early humanity's spiritual struggle. It wasn't merely a matter of what they presented to God, but how they presented it. The act of bringing a sacrifice was a powerful expression of their relationship with the divine, a test of their humility and sincerity. Abel's offering was a declaration of his connection with God, showing that he prioritized his spiritual legacy over earthly possessions. In contrast, Cain's offering lacked that depth, reflecting a disconnect that many of us might feel in our own moments of doubt or struggle with our faith. In our own lives, the lesson from Cain and Abel's story is clear. It's not just about what we give, but the intention and devotion behind it. Whether it's time, effort, or resources, what truly matters is the heart with which we give. Imagine approaching a task or goal with the same mindset as Abel, putting forth your best effort with genuine sincerity. That's when you'll see the most meaningful results. And as we continue to examine Cain's journey, his exile, and the mark that defined his future, we'll uncover how these themes play out in the broader context of early human civilization. Following the fateful events between Cain and Abel, the consequences of Cain's actions were swift and severe. God condemned him to a life of wandering, a punishment that went beyond mere exile. This sentence was both a physical and spiritual separation, cutting Cain off from his roots as a farmer and from the stability of his past life. This exile symbolized the rupture between Cain and the land he once cultivated, turning his world into a place of relentless struggle and instability. The curse placed upon Cain wasn't solely about his forced exile. It also represented a deeper break in his relationship with both the earth and the divine. God declared that the ground would no longer yield its strength to Cain, transforming his labor into a source of frustration. This punishment reflected the idea that sin doesn't just affect the sinner, it disrupts the harmony of creation itself. Cain's exile was a lesson in how disobedience to divine laws has far-reaching consequences that touch every aspect of existence. Yet, even in this moment of divine judgment, there was a glimpse of mercy. God placed the mark of Cain upon him, not as a symbol of disgrace, but as a protective sign to shield him from vengeance. This mark indicated that despite his wrongdoing, Cain remained under God's watchful eye. It's a reminder that divine punishment often comes hand in hand with an opportunity for redemption, leading us into the story of Cain's fear of retribution and his attempt to find refuge in the city of Enoch. Cain's life after his exile was marked by fear and uncertainty. He knew that his crime against Abel would not be forgotten, and that vengeance might come from those who sought justice for his brother's death. His plea to God wasn't just a request for mercy. It was an expression of the fear that haunted him, a fear of retribution from a world that had begun to grow and populate beyond the immediate family of Adam and Eve. God's response to Cain's fear was both protective and instructive. By marking Cain with a sign that promised sevenfold vengeance on anyone who harmed him, God set a divine boundary around the cycle of violence. This mark of Cain was more than just a symbol. It was a message to humanity about the limits of retribution and the need to break the cycle of revenge. It established a precedent that justice must be tempered with mercy, even when dealing with the gravest of sins. This episode in Cain's story speaks to a universal experience we all face: the fear of facing the consequences of our actions. In a world where judgment often seems swift and unforgiving, Cain's journey serves as a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is room for redemption and a chance to rebuild. As we turn our attention to the city of Enoch, we'll see how Cain's legacy, despite his troubled past, became intertwined with the beginnings of civilization itself. As we move deeper into Cain's story, the mark of Cain emerges as a crucial element, symbolizing the intersection between divine justice and mercy. This mark was more than a punishment. It was a protective sign that ensured Cain would not be killed by those who might seek to avenge Abel's death. The complexity of this symbol lies in its dual role. It represented both Cain's guilt and God's unwillingness to abandon him completely. The mark's deeper meaning resonates with anyone who has ever felt the consequences of their actions weighing heavily upon them. It's a reminder that even when we falter, there is a possibility for redemption. God's act of marking Cain suggests that divine mercy is not limited to the righteous. It extends even to those who have strayed far from the path of faith and obedience. This principle of mercy within punishment is a thread that weaves throughout the spiritual legacy of early humanity. As we reflect on the significance of the mark of Cain, it leads us to consider how these early symbols set the stage for understanding divine principles. The mark itself is a powerful testament to the complexity of God's justice, a justice that always leaves room for second chances. This idea carries forward into Cain's attempts to establish a new life, where he seeks redemption in the city of Enoch, a place that would become a cornerstone for the growth of early civilization. Transitioning from Cain's journey of exile, another mystery that arises is the identity of Cain's wife. This question has puzzled readers for centuries, as the biblical text does not explicitly detail where she came from. Given that Adam and Eve were described as the first humans, the most logical explanation is that Cain's wife was one of his sisters or a close relative. This notion aligns with the cultural norms of early humanity, where interfamily marriages were essential to the growth of the human population. Understanding ancient marriages in this context sheds light on how these unions were not only socially accepted, but crucial for the development of the primordial family. During this time, the practice of marrying close kin was a means of survival, ensuring that humanity could flourish and expand. The idea of Cain's wife being a sister or niece was a natural step in the process of building the biblical genealogy, leading to the establishment of greater communities. This exploration of Cain's marriage brings us to a broader consideration of the role of family ties in early civilizations. As we look at how these relationships shaped human origins, it's clear that they laid the foundation for the spiritual and moral values that would guide future generations. The importance of these unions becomes even more evident as we turn our focus to the lineage of Seth, whose descendants continued to carry forward the legacy of faith and obedience. The discussion about Cain's wife doesn't end with the traditional explanations. It also opens up to various interpretations, including those found in apocryphal texts like the Book of Jubilees. Some scholars propose that God might have created other humans alongside Adam and Eve, expanding the scope of the creation narrative. This perspective suggests that Cain's wife could have been part of a broader human community, existing beyond the immediate family of the first couple. The idea of other humans being created independently adds a layer of complexity to our understanding of biblical genealogy. It challenges the notion of a singular lineage and invites us to consider how diverse the early human population might have been. While these interpretations are not universally accepted, they encourage us to think critically about the stories handed down through tradition and to explore the possibilities that lie within the gaps of the biblical text. Whether one believes in these alternative theories or sticks with the traditional view, the search for Cain's wife serves as a reminder of the richness and depth of the biblical narrative. It highlights the spiritual and philosophical questions that have intrigued humanity for centuries. As we move towards examining the role of the city of Enoch, we see how these early relationships and the foundations they built played a crucial role in shaping the moral and spiritual legacy of human civilization. Shifting our focus to the Book of Jubilees, we find an alternative perspective that expands on the lives of Adam and Eve's descendants. Although it is not part of the official biblical canon, this apocryphal text offers valuable insights into figures like Cain's wife, identified as Awan, and Seth's wife, Azura. These narratives provide context to the biblical genealogy, filling in the blanks left by the traditional scriptures. The Book of Jubilees plays a significant role in understanding the spiritual journey of early humanity. It emphasizes themes of faith and obedience, not just as individual traits but as guiding principles that directed the actions of the primordial family. By exploring these additional details, we gain a deeper appreciation of the values that shaped the lineage of Seth and the spiritual legacy that persisted through generations. While the Book of Jubilees may not be recognized as divine scripture, its influence on religious thought and historical understanding cannot be ignored. It challenges us to look beyond the standard biblical texts and to consider how these ancient interpretations add layers to the story of human origins. As we continue, the impact of Seth's lineage will come into sharper focus, revealing how his descendants carried forth these foundational teachings into the development of early civilization. The city of Enoch stands as a monumental symbol in Cain's story, representing his attempt to create a legacy despite his past transgressions. Named after his son, this city marked the beginnings of organized society in the biblical narrative, transitioning humanity from a nomadic existence to a more structured and community-oriented life. It reflects Cain's desire to rebuild and redefine his place in the world, even after the devastating consequences of his actions. Building the city of Enoch was more than just a physical act. It was a statement of Cain's resilience and his need to establish a new identity. This city became a hub of early civilization, where ideas, beliefs, and traditions could be shared and developed. Cain's role in founding this city is a reminder that even those who have fallen can contribute significantly to the progress of humanity, highlighting the intricate dance between sin, redemption, and legacy. As we explore the significance of the city of Enoch, it also serves as a precursor to future human societies that would arise from the lineage of Seth. The city symbolizes humanity's eternal quest to create, innovate, and find purpose, despite the shadows of past mistakes. Looking ahead to the spiritual legacy of Seth's descendants, we will see how these early foundations influence the development of moral and ethical values that guided future generations. As we transition from the city of Enoch to broader societal dynamics, the role of marriage in early humanity emerges as a crucial aspect. In a world still finding its footing, The concept of marriage was not merely a personal choice but a necessity for survival. For the descendants of Adam and Eve, interfamily unions were essential to expand the human population, forming the very fabric of the biblical genealogy that continues to shape our understanding of human origins. These early marriages, often between close relatives like siblings or cousins, were integral to establishing the primordial family's legacy. In ancient times, the lack of a diverse population meant that such unions were not only accepted, but encouraged to ensure the continuity of human civilization. The practice of ancient marriages served as a foundation for future generations, linking the spiritual legacy of Seth's lineage directly back to the teachings and values of the earliest human communities. As we look ahead, understanding these early unions offers insight into how society evolved from its nascent stages to more structured civilizations. The lessons of these marriages go beyond family ties. They highlight the importance of building strong, interconnected communities. This concept of unity and shared purpose will continue to be a defining element as we explore the antediluvian lifespans and how these long lives contributed to the rapid expansion of early civilizations. Shifting from the spiritual and social dynamics of early humanity, let's consider what modern science and archaeology have to say about these ancient times. Discoveries of prehistoric tools, settlements, and evidence of pre-flood civilizations suggest that humanity's story might be even broader than the biblical text initially portrays. These findings invite us to explore how the physical evidence aligns, or sometimes contrasts, with the creation narrative described in sacred texts. Archaeological insights provide a fascinating backdrop to the antediluvian world, where long lifespans and advanced civilizations could have existed. The remnants of ancient societies point to a level of sophistication that supports the idea of a thriving human population before the Great Flood. While these scientific perspectives do not negate the spiritual teachings, they add a layer of depth, encouraging us to see the biblical genealogy not just as a list of names, but as a record of a dynamic, evolving humanity. Integrating these scientific findings with the spiritual legacy of early humans allows us to gain a more comprehensive understanding of human origins. It shows that the biblical narrative and historical evidence can coexist, each enriching the other. As we transition to discussing the extraordinary lifespans of figures like Methuselah and Enoch, we'll see how these long lives served as pillars in the bridge between divine intention and human achievement. One of the most intriguing aspects of the biblical narrative is the longevity of early humans, with lifespans extending into several centuries. Figures like Methuselah, who lived 969 years, symbolize the connection between early humanity and the divine design. These extended lifespans weren't merely a biological anomaly. They represented a time when humanity was closer to its pure, uncorrupted state, living in alignment with God's original creation narrative. The long lives of these antediluvian figures allowed them to pass down knowledge, wisdom, and spiritual teachings through generations, strengthening the spiritual legacy of the primordial family. Their experiences and lessons shaped the way subsequent generations would approach life, faith, and obedience. This continuity of teachings was crucial in laying the groundwork for the moral and ethical standards that guided human civilization even after the flood reshaped the world. As we move forward, these lifespans offer more than just historical curiosity. They challenge us to reflect on the quality of our own lives today. The principles that guided these ancient figures in their extended years are just as relevant now. The transition to the story of Enoch, who lived a life of deep faith and was taken up by God, shows us that the true measure of life is not merely in its length, but in the spiritual depth and commitment it embodies. Building on the idea of antediluvian lifespans, various theories attempt to explain why early humans lived so much longer than we do today. Some scholars propose that the Earth's pre-flood environment, with its unique atmospheric conditions, played a crucial role in these extended lifespans. This theory suggests that factors like a richer atmosphere and natural protection from radiation might have contributed to healthier, longer lives. Another perspective looks at the genetic purity of early humanity, believing that the first generations were closer to the perfection of Adam and Eve's creation. With fewer genetic mutations and a more direct lineage to the divine, these individuals were naturally endowed with the ability to live longer, passing their knowledge and culture to subsequent generations. This idea aligns with the spiritual concept of humanity's gradual decline after the fall, both in physical health and moral strength. These theories, whether scientific or spiritual, point to a time when humanity's connection to the divine was more direct and unbroken. Understanding this helps us grasp the broader implications of human origins and the challenges faced as humanity drifted further from that initial state of grace. As we delve into Enoch's exceptional walk with God, we'll see how his life stands as a testament to what is possible when one fully aligns with divine principles. Enoch's story is perhaps one of the most remarkable narratives in the biblical genealogy. Unlike many of his ancestors who lived long but eventually faced death, Enoch's life was distinguished by his deep relationship with God. The Bible tells us that Enoch walked with God, and his faith was so profound that he was taken up to heaven without tasting death. This act of divine favor sets Enoch apart as a symbol of ultimate spiritual devotion and alignment with divine will. The idea of walking with God goes beyond simple obedience. It signifies a life lived in constant communion with the divine. Enoch's journey was marked by unwavering faith, guiding his every thought and action toward fulfilling God's purpose. His life serves as an example of what it means to prioritize spiritual values over worldly gains, showing us that true fulfillment lies in nurturing our relationship with the divine. Enoch's unique departure from this world challenges us to think about the legacy we wish to leave behind. His story encourages us to seek a higher purpose and align our lives with principles that transcend the material. As we move into exploring Noah's lineage and the continuation of humanity through his descendants, we will see how Enoch's spiritual legacy paved the way for future generations to build on this foundation of faith and obedience. As we transition from the story of Enoch, the lineage of Noah becomes a pivotal point in the biblical narrative, bridging the gap between the antediluvian world and the new beginnings after the flood. Descended from Seth's lineage, Noah was chosen by God to preserve humanity and the living creatures of the earth. His role was not just about survival. It was about carrying forward the spiritual legacy and moral principles established by his forebears, particularly those from the line of Enoch. Noah's obedience to God's commands during the most challenging of times set him apart as a beacon of faith in a world that had lost its way. Building the ark was not merely an act of physical labor, but a profound demonstration of his unwavering trust in divine guidance. His actions became the cornerstone for a new era of humanity, reinforcing the values of faith and obedience that would be essential as the world repopulated and civilizations began to grow anew. The impact of Noah's lineage is seen not just in the repopulation of the earth, but in the continuation of spiritual teachings that guided his descendants. This lineage held on to the lessons of righteousness and commitment to God's will, even as they faced a transformed world. As we move forward to explore the changes from antediluvian to post-flood generations, we will see how these shifts in lifespan and spiritual focus shaped the course of human history and moral evolution. Moving from Noah's story to the broader picture of human evolution, the transition from antediluvian to post-flood generations marks a significant turning point in biblical history. After the flood, we witness a dramatic decline in the lifespans of humans, symbolizing a shift in humanity's connection to the divine and the physical world. This change reflected the altered conditions of life on Earth and the beginning of a new phase in humanity's spiritual journey. Post-flood generations, including figures like Abraham and Moses, lived considerably shorter lives compared to their ancestors. This reduction in lifespan wasn't just a biological phenomenon. It represented humanity's growing distance from the original purity and divine favor that characterized the early patriarchs. Despite these changes, the principles of faith and obedience remained as guiding lights, steering humanity through a rapidly changing landscape. This transition from long-lived antediluvians to more mortal post-flood figures also mirrors the development of society and its evolving relationship with divine principles. As we delve into the contrasting paths taken by Cain's and Seth's descendants, we will uncover how these generational shifts influenced the moral and ethical frameworks that shaped the spiritual destiny of humankind in the years that followed. As we compare the descendants of Cain and Seth, we see a striking divergence in the paths they chose. Cain's lineage, marked by innovation and the founding of cities like Enoch, often pursued earthly achievements and personal gain, which sometimes led to moral compromises. Their focus on material progress symbolized humanity's capacity for creativity and ambition, but also highlighted the risks of straying from spiritual principles. In stark contrast, Seth's lineage is celebrated for its commitment to spiritual values and its close relationship with God. Descendants like Enoch and Noah exemplified lives dedicated to righteousness, guiding humanity toward faith and moral integrity. This line became the torchbearer of divine teachings, preserving the spiritual legacy that emphasized obedience to God's will and the pursuit of a higher purpose. This duality between the descendants of Cain and Seth serves as a metaphor for the choices all of humanity must face: the pull between worldly desires and the call to a life grounded in spiritual values. As we explore the broader legacy of the primordial family, we see how these contrasting paths shaped not only the moral compass of ancient civilizations, but also the enduring struggle between good and evil in human nature. The legacy of the primordial family, beginning with Adam and Eve, extends far beyond their immediate descendants. Their story is the root of humanity's spiritual and moral development, influencing every generation that followed. Through their lives and the lives of their children, like Cain, Abel, and Seth, the foundations of faith, obedience, and the consequences of moral choices were firmly established, creating a blueprint for future generations. This family's impact is most evident in the stories of their descendants, from Seth's righteous lineage to Cain's complex journey into exile and city building. Their actions and the legacy they left behind have been pivotal in shaping the biblical narrative, setting the stage for the ongoing struggle between divine justice and human free will. The choices they made and the lessons they imparted have echoed throughout history, guiding the moral and ethical decisions of countless generations. As we look deeper into the fabric of these ancient stories, we begin to understand the profound influence they have on our understanding of human origins and spiritual growth. This reflection leads us naturally into the exploration of apocryphal texts, like the Book of Jubilees, which offer additional perspectives on these foundational tales, enriching our perception of the spiritual journey that defines humanity's past and present. The inclusion of apocryphal texts like the Book of Jubilees in our understanding of biblical stories opens up new dimensions to the narrative of the primordial family. These texts, though not part of the official biblical canon, provide detailed accounts and fill gaps left by traditional scripture. They offer names, histories, and spiritual insights that deepen our understanding of figures like Cain, Seth, and their descendants. These writings invite us to expand our view of the biblical genealogy and the early days of humanity by adding layers of meaning and context. the apocryphal texts explore the complexities of human choices, faith, and divine interaction in ways that complement the canonical scriptures. They encourage us to see these ancient figures not just as names in a lineage, but as complex individuals who played significant roles in humanity's spiritual evolution. While these texts may not hold the same authority as the traditional Bible, their value lies in the richness they bring to the interpretation of human origins and divine purpose. As we conclude this exploration of Cain, Seth, and the broader biblical genealogy, the apocryphal texts remind us that the quest for spiritual understanding is an ever-evolving journey, inviting us to continuously seek deeper truths and connect with the lessons of the past. As we reach the end of this journey through the hidden lineage of Adam and Eve, the question remains: how will you apply this newfound knowledge to your own life? Understanding the secrets of the primordial family isn't just about satisfying curiosity. It's about seeing the choices that shaped humanity's moral compass and using that wisdom to guide your own spiritual journey. Are you ready to take the lessons from Cain, Seth, and Enoch and use them to transform your own life? The truth is, this ancient knowledge has the power to change not just how you see the world, but how you live within it. Think about it. What would happen if you embraced the faith and obedience that guided Seth's lineage or avoided the pitfalls of envy and resentment that plagued Cain? This isn't just history. It's a blueprint for a life of purpose, direction, and divine connection. Now, it's your turn. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you use it to deepen your understanding and commitment to your own spiritual path? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights could inspire someone else on their journey. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, so you never miss a chance to dive deeper into the mysteries of faith and biblical truth. The journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning.